Mm-hmm. All right, pal. Ready when you are.
Yeah. I'm just, I'm moving this and I'm moving that. I'm just checking my list.
It appears that Marcus, the person we mentioned earlier, has a friend who is in the hospital due to COVID. He posted this 2 hours ago. Oh, that's nice.
All right. Well, I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to do too much switching anymore. Let's just get to it. Let's roll our sleeves up and get right to it.
Get on. Thank you, big fat Ed.
Boy, I miss him. I do. I really do.
Say what you want to about it. We got that character over. You know, we made it happen.
No, he was great. And another, the Big Ed store still exists, right?
Well, yeah. Go get your gun nuts.
It's just
today.
online.
That's right. Honey barbecue hot gun nuts available right now, free shipping. Oh, good times.
Okay, ready?
Ready.
We've got the Brad and Britt cast underway here. It's our midweek version, whatever that means.
Whatever.
We're glad you are with us, and I'd like to begin by talking about the vaccine chicken hawks.
Oh, okay? Good.
To borrow an old phrase, because of course, chicken hawks are known for the most part of being people who didn't go fight wars, who ask other people or other people's children or parents to go fight wars for them. For instance, Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney was a chicken, right?
Great example.
Never served in the military.
A million different deferments and all that other stuff. They talk a good game. They talk like they're very tough, but when it comes to actually put something on the line, they never are able to do that. Right.
And this is not the point that I'm trying to make, but I just want to throw this in, that the other day when Joe Biden made either the greatest or the worst speech in presidential history. I can't decide.
One of those.
It's either the best. It's the most open, honest, or lying, prevaricating excuse. I haven't figured it out yet. Don't know yet. But he did mention one thing, that are you willing to send your child or your brother to die over in Afghanistan right now, and for what anytime in the future? It's the same thing. You know, are you a chicken hawk? You want us to stay there forever? You want us to engage in more battle? I mean, we've been pretty lucky the last year and a half. No one's died, but that doesn't guarantee.
And to what end? To what end do we stay there forever?
Right. But that doesn't matter why. It's just are you willing to put yourself on? Right. Okay.
Just stay forever.
So, right. So now I would like to transfer that over, because if we're anything, we are the podcast of painful analogies.
Painful analogies.
Because this is a way of avoiding talking about something really important and transferring it over to something equal or possibly less important, but getting away with it without that much substance. And again, if we're anything, we're not substance. Okay. So vaccine chicken hawks would be people like Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, a guy who, along with Ron DeSantis in Florida and a few of the other Southern Republican governors in particular, have played this game of coronavirus vaccine footsie, which is once or twice over the last year and a half, they will have said people need to get vaccinated or something to that effect. That's the best way to solve this problem. People need to get vaccinated. And then they put that over on the shelf and they cater and they pander to the vaccine refuseniks, the evangelical nutcases, the medical doubters, the it hasn't been approved by the FDA crowd. I mean, there's about 20 different versions of categories that you can put yourself in as some kind of reason as to why you haven't gotten vaccinated since it was widely available beginning in, about February? Okay.
We're just waiting for
So here
that
comes
FDA
Greg
approval.
Abbott.
We're waiting for that FDA approval. The moment the
Right,
FDA
that's
gives that, we're going to go. We're going to do it.
That's a very, very special category, Britt. Very special category. These are FDA fans. They actually have probably T-shirts. They probably have little decoder rings. FDA. Well, they're big fans of the FDA. Yeah.
Look, they trust the government.
Yeah. They. This is the only thing they trust the government. Right. Exactly. Right. Of course. No, but they don't trust the government. But they trust the FBA. Or wait a minute. But let's sound this one out. We need a version of something that we've seen the last few years, which is get the government out of my FDA almost approved vaccine. All right.
That's great.
All right, take it down. Put us back.
Yeah.
So we learned on Tuesday that the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, has tested positive with hardly any symptoms. He has been vaccinated, and from what I could find, he was not one of those people that would not admit that he had been vaccinated. He wasn't one of those. I think there's even pictures of him getting vaccinated. So it was okay for him. But again, that's about as far as it goes because he's in Texas, the Republic of Texas, the independent Republic of Texas, where the base of the Republican Party that votes people in over and over and over again is all about freedom and all about school children having their freedom, even at a young age, to go to school maskless so that the quickly spreading Delta version of by the way, did you see 99% now of all cases in the country are Delta? So remember how it was creeping up? It was 20%. That now it just dominates. Delta rules.
Delta. So, can I help you?
Right. So here's Greg Abbott. And now we find out, and this is why he gets the Vaccine Chicken Hawk Award, why he is the first major recipient of it. And we need to have a little trophy or a plaque or something to salute him. So while he has been playing footsie with the need to get as many Texans vaccinated as possible, doing everything he can, not that you would connect the idea that you would be passive aggressive about getting people vaccinated in your state, along with being not very passive, but being aggressive in voter suppression. Again, painful analogy, not true, but feels good to say it.
You're following a side road.
But we find out that Greg Abbott has been getting tested every day for the coronavirus every day. And he's been vaccinated. So he's not just responsible because he got vaccinated. Most of us are. But he's been going so over the line in doing something that nobody does. It's not recommended that you get tested every day. It's complete pussy shit fear that you are rolling around with. See what I did there? You're rolling around with when you would not give localities in your state the ability to set local rules about wearing masks in schools, that you're going to go after school, just like Florida. So not only has he been vaccinated, but he's been tested every day. And even worse, the minute he tested positive 2 days ago, went into the hospital to get the most sophisticated,
Right.
unobtainable to almost everyone,
Right.
this monochromal DNA, the shit that Trump had, the remdesivir, which, by the way, still to this day is not really available to everyone, and it's only available for the most part to people that are older and folks that act. But he got it instantly with no symptoms. Okay,
Right.
so he didn't just get Cadillac treatment. He didn't just get Lamborghini treatment.
Maybach.
He got he got Maybach, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so and again, we have to do painful analogies here. Who is the bigger piece of shit hypocrite governor? Would it be Greg Abbott, for what he has now shown himself to be? And by the way, being stupid enough to be, a couple days ago at some fundraiser, you've seen the video of him. He's in his wheelchair and he is surrounded by a ballroom of zillions of Texans, zillions of them, none of them wearing masks. And that's a super spreader event. That's the definition of it. There's no argument. You're indoors and people aren't wearing masks.
Wait a minute. I have to counteract and be fair and balanced to what you said. Obama's birthday party. Obama's birthday party. Sorry, I just thought I'd have to clean that up a little.
Right. Well, here's the thing. If Obama had tested positive, you'd have a whataboutism there to work with. But,
exactly.
But he didn't, and so, wait a minute, maybe he has, but we don't know about it.
Yeah, what about that? And by the way, if you go into some of the books that have been written about all of the stuff that Donald Trump got, it goes well beyond what you said. They were pulling shit out that it will blow your mind, because I just got through that chapter, and frankly, I alone can fix it. The shit that they threw at the wall to make sure that this man didn't die was unbelievable. What they gave him when he was at Walter Reed, it would blow your mind. They threw the kitchen sink and then some at him to make sure that he didn't die.
I wish it would have hit him in the head. All right, so is it Greg Abbott, the vaccine chicken hawk, who leads a state that is either number 1 or 2 in most numbers of new cases, and most people in the hospital, and the children is he or is Gavin Newsom, who had a dinner at the French Laundry restaurant several months ago with some other people? That's the worst thing. And you know why? Because Gavin Newsom, he's getting recalled. He might get thrown out of office for stuff like that. Yeah. But Greg Abbott, no. Tonight at 8 on Fox. So this is the difference between Democrats and Republicans. It's another version of the fact that Joe Biden's feet are being held to the fire, not just by the other party over what's been going on in Afghanistan, but Democrats too. He's getting a lot of shit from his party. And if the roles were reversed, and this had happened on still President Donald Trump in his second term in office at this time with the same thing, there would not be one Republican of Trump's party criticizing or questioning the judgment. They wouldn't. They'd be saying nothing. And that's the difference.
Isn't the Greg Abbott story?
My opening statement.
But doesn't the Greg Abbott story, isn't it a complete win for the anti-vaxxers? Because they can just point out and go, look, it proves you get the vaccination, you can still get sick. You can still get the COVID. So fuck it, I shouldn't get it. Doesn't that let you do all of that? Well,
see, that's the problem. I mean, that's kind of the Freddy Krueger problem. Doesn't matter how many times you think you've killed him, he's there. It doesn't matter how many facts you bring to the table. It doesn't matter that 99.8% of us who've been vaccinated, 99.9 have not died. A few percent of us have picked up the coronavirus as a breakthrough case, no doubt about that. But you know what? Many of those breakthrough cases, and I hesitate to say this, but I have to, are the result of, how should we say it, letting down our guard a little bit too much in thinking. And this is answering something that was never said, which goes into what you just said, which is
Correct.
that people who thought that getting vaccinated was an automatic open season pass to do everything exactly the way they did it 2 years ago before we heard of this disease. And it was open season to crowd into places indoors, share air and space with people who you do not know their status in terms of having the virus. And I would submit to you that many of the breakthrough cases of vaccinated people who are now testing positive are partially the result of their kind of just throw caution to the wind. It's back to 2019 again, and let's go for it. And that feeds into what idiot refusenick anti-vaxxers would say in defense of Greg Abbott testing positive, which is, you see, he got vaccinated and he still got it. So why should I get it? Okay, here's the reason, moron. Greg Abbott is not dying. And yes, he's getting, extreme treatment, but he probably wouldn't be dying anyway. Most people, almost every person to a T, including my own son, including my own daughter-in-law, tested positive, and they have it right now. They're both, two of them are fighting it right now as
Wow.
we speak. And the reason that they're able to fight it at home, and they have good days and bad days right now for several days. That's just how it works. The temperature goes up, but the reason they're not in the hospital on a fucking ventilator is because they got vaccinated.
That's right.
And by the way, they got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So guess what? It works too. It keeps you from dying. You're being kept from dying by all three of the vaccines in this country.
But that's important for you to underline that. Nobody ever said getting the vaccine means you won't get the virus. No one ever said that. That is a false argument. That is a straw man. That is bullshit.
It doesn't
that you pulled
matter,
out
Britt.
of your ass. No one ever said that.
I know that.
They said that you would probably not die. They said you would get less sick if you got the vaccine.
Here's the problem, and this is called deliberate obfuscation, deliberately not wanting to know something that you should know if you would just listen, because you've heard it 1,000 times from everybody who ever discusses this in any position of authority, whether they're a doctor or a politician. They will say the only way we get out of this is to get everyone vaccinated. So the anti-vaxxers take that as saying, you just said, if I get vaccinated, I'll never get sick. That's what they do. That's what they do. It's like saying, you know what? If you wear a seatbelt, you will never die.
You'll never get in a wreck. You'll never get in a wreck.
Well, first of all, you never get in a wreck. And then if you get in a wreck, you cannot die because you were wearing your seatbelt. Nobody ever said that. It's if you wear your fucking seatbelt, if you get into a car wreck, which you just might, your chances of living are way, way better. Just like getting vaccinated, your chances of living are way, way better. In fact, the vaccine is a much higher degree of protection percentage-wise from death than seatbelts are in cars. And seatbelts are pretty good. They've knocked down over the years tens of thousands of
I had one save my
fatalities that never happened. Yeah,
one saved my life one time, and I walked away from a wreck.
Yeah, I think we did a painful analogy. We stumbled into it, and it worked.
It did work that time.
It did work. We should just stop now. We're gonna say something stupid here in the next.
Well, but the other, I mean,
is going to make people
the other ammunition for the anti-vax, anti-science crowd is, of course, that the FDA is now saying that some Americans will be eligible to get what would be a third shot for people like you and me. It would be a second shot for people who got Johnson & Johnson. It's going to be, I think, about 8 months after that second dose that you got. Late September, some folks are going to start getting it. For me, it would be in the middle of November would be when I would be eligible to get it. And for the anti-vax crowd, well, that just proves that it doesn't work. So if it worked, why would you need a booster? And they're going to show.
Because,
yeah.
Right. Britt, remember, because whenever the vaccine was starting to be dispensed, I can remember doctor after doctor saying, if you get this, it'll last forever and you don't have to worry for the rest of it. You remember how many times you heard people say that? They were saying that over. No, nobody ever said that. And you know what? Hey, morons, you get a fucking new flu vaccine every year. Why is that?
You do.
Because it doesn't last. It doesn't,
changes.
And it changes.
It mutates. Exactly.
And in this case, look, the United States, and we've made mistakes. There's no doubt about it. There's not a perfect response, but it's been perfect if you paid attention.
Yeah.
And you've followed logic and instruct. It has been pretty close to perfect, but you can't lay perfection over the top of a country that's made up of a high percentage of morons. So and we'll just put that aside. But the fact that we are here, and for the last few weeks, you could feel it. You could hear it in the voices of everyone from Dr. Fauci on down, that a third shot was definitely going to be in the cards for us. And then the data came in from Israel and from other countries that were starting to give it. And boy, this one's a tiresome thing to have to say over and over again. Are you telling me that we're the only country that knows what the fuck we're doing with this? And the answer is no, we're not the only country, and we can learn from them every once in a while. And so the United States CDC, they looked at the Israeli data, and they looked at the data that's starting to come in now from Americans, and you can see that the resistance level starts to drop off a little bit as you get into 7, 8, 9 months. So this makes total sense. It doesn't prove that the vaccine doesn't work. It proves that the vaccine does work, but it can work even better to protect more people for longer if we bolster it with a third shot. Thus, we now join the NBA and college basketball in saying that a 3-point shot is really the best way to score. 3.
He's 3 from 3.
So good. I just hope this is as we hope it will be, which is that people will respect. And again, you can reach through the screen and poke me just for even thinking this, that people are going to respect the 8-month number and not have 60% of people try to call in the first day it's available to try to get their third shot. Again, even people who just got their shots 3 months ago. You know what I'm afraid of? That the fucking morons, the assholes who waited so long that they were winning $100
owning
or
the
in the lottery. The last couple months of the Johnny come latelys, they'll be the first ones to think they need a third shot. They'll be so fucking stupid. No, you just got it. You just got vaccinated, morons. It's an 8-month thing, okay? But don't you think that they will be the first ones?
Again, America is divided. Right? America is divided between two people who are very anxious to get their third shot and a lot of people who won't even consider getting their first one. That is the division in America right now. The people who can't wait to get number 3 and the people who say, fuck it, I'm not even getting number 1. I don't know any other way to put it. I don't know who's more on this side or more on this side, but there's a lot of stupid people out there.
Well, but if you look at the overall view from 31,312 feet, which is how high up you have to be now to see everything that's going on, we who will be eligible after 8 months or so to get our third shot, again, we're not the problem. We're not the problem. It is going to be until we reach some sort of magic number. Who knows? Is it 80%, 85%, 90% of people actually getting vaccinated? They're still the problem. Let's not produce a new category of people to beat the shit out of right now, which is, the third vaccine people, because, they've moved into, they may be annoying, but they're not really the problem.
No, they're not the problem, but that is the issue in America.
They will be. Yeah,
that is the issue in America. People who are eager, anxious, willing. I'm anxious to get mine. I know when I'm supposed to do it. I may talk it over with my doctor. I do have an appointment between now and then, so I might go, hey, you think this is right for me? You got those people that are absolutely 100% on board with getting a third one, and you got a number of people like, fuck it, I ain't even getting number one because the government's lying to me. It doesn't work, blah, 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 blah. And I don't understand how we got to that division.
Right. Right. You're definitely 1,000% right in saying that everything that happens can be twisted and spun into, see, I told you so, which is, of course, back to your original, hey, if it was so good, why do they need a third one? And
so what did you just say? What did you say? Everything can be twisted into, see, I told you so. Hi, I'm Joe Rogan. The headline, Joe Rogan, Spotify podcaster, tears into Fauci, blames him for mistrust in science. You're supposed to believe him after he's been 100% wrong. Now, I'd love to dismiss
on what? Wait, hang on. Before I even read the piece, I want you, and then I want you to read it. Is this moron, this asshole? What's he make? They sign him for like $400 million because he's that good. But okay, and we're not bitter and we're not jealous.
Not at all.
This asshole has nothing to do with it. Is this asshole still playing he said masks were the big thing back in February. He lied. Is he still? Are they still going with that one? Is that still the basis for Fauci lied? Are they still going with that one?
It was just over a week ago when Rogan claimed that vaccine passports would move to the United States toward a dictatorship. He revisited that idea on Tuesday, that would be yesterday as we record, by worrying that America would embrace a social credit score connected to vaccine passports in order to control the population. Rogan argued such a system doesn't make any sense since fully vaccinated people can still contract COVID. Well, that's the point. As the two discussed, him and his co-host.
By the way, but can I just, so far, he has not said one thing, not even one thing that's even close to making any degree of sense. You may continue, sir.
As he, in his co-host, this Fridman guy, Lex Fridman, who has a tremendous amount of credibility in my life, as they discussed public skepticism toward pharmaceutical companies, Fridman claimed that nobody really trusts Fauci anymore as a public leader, as a public health leader. Rogan went on to accuse the media of ignoring all the things Fauci's done to lead people to distrust him, namely the NIH grant he gave to EcoHealth Alliance. The organization has come under a great deal of public scrutiny in recent months because of their collaborations with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which is where the COVID lab leak theory proponents are convinced that the coronavirus escaped from. Fridman accused Fauci of not being transparent about gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute, another major aspect of the lab leak theory. After Fridman blamed Fauci and shady, greedy assholes for public mistrust of science, Rogan started to attack Fauci for his shifting guidance against COVID, giving only superficial credence to the reality that science are being challenged to react to new data about a mutating pandemic in real time. Here's the quote from Joe Rogan, who could very well be the Republican nominee for president in just a couple of years. There's also a problem with people like him when they make these statements that you're led to believe that they have an understanding of the situation, but then it turns out they're 100% wrong. But then they come up with a new statement, and you're supposed to believe that. When they don't know, they never say, we don't know. They don't say, this is very confusing, and we're trying to figure it out as we go along. That is Joe Rogan, hero to millions of aggrieved white males in the United States of America.
You know what, Britt? That one's too stupid to talk about. Let's just move on because
but it is driving the train.
It's just the worst. It's just the worst. It is
driving the train. There is this school of thought, and there are people that believe it, and it's part of the reason people are not getting vaccinated. Good. And some of these idiots are in hospitals right now on ventilators because they listen to dickheads like Joe Rogan.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? That should be when you check into the hospital. You have to fill out a lot of forms, and maybe they should put now on the entrance papers that you sign, part of the questionnaire, all of this. Where do you get your information about health? Where do you get it about the coronavirus? What is there's a lot of people will write Facebook, right? Some people may say, hell, Joe Rogan. I don't know. You need to know, because if by chance you do write any of those people's names down, then we're going to deny you treatment. You're out. You're in the words of the great George Costanza, too stupid to live.
Too stupid to live.
Stupid to live.
Speaking of anti-vax folks who were on the radios preaching we did get an update on Phil Valentine, the Nashville host. He is now in grave condition. His family says pray for a miracle. It seems pretty likely at this point that if Phil Valentine does survive and is able to live, he will be nothing near what he was before he went into the hospital and before he got COVID-19, and likely will not have much of a life at all. Grave condition is what they're saying from Phil Valentine. And his family, of course, has been fairly transparent. Phil himself was, when he was still able to talk, was telling people that, oh, no, they were lying. I wasn't actually anti-vax. However, the record does show that he was very much, and mocked a lot of vaccination stuff, including parody songs on his popular radio show in Nashville.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can now find zillions of these stories. They're all out there, and it is sad. Because we wanted to think of the United States as an exceptional country, shining city on the hill, all those kinds of things. And a generally accepted body of facts around certain things helps a society to be able to move forward. And again, this is the old, there's no possible way, if I would have said to you, or you would have said to me, or any of us would have said to each other 3 years ago, that in a couple years, we're going to have this horrible, horrible disease that's going to be transmissible really, really easily, much more easily than the flu. You're going to have to really be careful. But you know what? About 7 months after it starts to spread around, the hand of God will present you with a miracle drug. We talk about miracle drugs all the time. You know, the miracle drug that you'll take it and you'll automatically lose 40 pounds in a week. No, that never comes. It doesn't look like it's going to come. Although, what is that? What's that? Gobi, whatever the shit that is that they're advertising. That's a big one. Apparently, that's a good thing. But whatever it is, but that's not really what I'm talking about. But in this case, there really was a miracle drug, not as the result of God handing it to us, but the result of 20 years of hard work by scientists, including people like the aforementioned evil Dr. Fauci. And in less than a year, people were already starting to become inoculated and largely immune from that terrible disease. And then guess what? A huge portion of the United States would refuse to participate and would rather risk dying. That line that Trump parroted more than a year ago, the cure is worse than the disease. If you're going to tell me that one didn't stick, and that one doesn't go to the heart of the Joe Rogans of the world continuing to demagogue this issue and help kill off their listeners or their readers or their voters, pick your occupation and then whoever their constituency is, then I'm not breathing. If that whole thing about the cure is worse than the disease, I mean, you've seen the man on the street interviews. There are a lot of people, and it's not just dumb Southern white evangelical Christians. It's a lot of black people, too, all over this country who believe that this is a plot to kill them, that this is just Tuskegee 2021. Right. That's all it is. Of course, again, the fact we have to discuss it this way is ridiculous, because if you would just think for a moment, you black person who thinks that this is the Tuskegee experiment where they didn't treat people with syphilis for 40 years just to watch them die, like Johnny Cash, right? Shot a man in Reno. Not that. Well, then guess what? A lot of white people are participating in the white Tuskegee experiment, because a lot more white people have gotten vaccinated than blacks. I guess we're all going to die just like these guys did 30, 40 years ago in that. I mean, to not be able to break through that kind of ignorance, it saddens me. It hurts me. It makes me ask all the questions about this country that I don't want to ask, which is, not only are we not the best in the world, not only the greatest in the world, I'm not sure we're in top 10.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're in the conversation anymore. I'm not. I'm really, really not.
What was your comment off the air about the University of Michigan not being in the top 25? And I was like, well, Coastal Carolina is, Louisiana Lafayette, and you were like, but they never should have been. Like, for 20 years, they should not have been in the top.
Right. Yeah. And maybe the United States has been running on fumes
for a while,
for a long time.
Ever since World War II, we've been coasting, as they say. That's what's been happening here in the United States.
That is right. That is right.
Speaking of great governors and great leaders, Ron DeSantis now, Florida is threatening to remove school officials who disobey Santis on these mask orders, and you're seeing this all over the state. The feds stepped in after said they're not going to pay some of these superintendents and school board members and such who are going to go against the DeSantis idea that you should not mask those kids, get them out there and roll their faces around in the dirt in the playground. And the Biden administration said, no, it's okay. We're going to figure out paying these people. Now, the DeSantis administration in Florida is saying, well, no, we're going to fire some of these people. At least that is the threat that they're making right now, Brad.
Look, this is the definition of doubling down and splitting the cards. And if the rules allow, doubling down on your split cards. I mean, that's what DeSantis is banking on. And, we talked about this weeks ago. It's been said by other people who are, of course, copying us, that DeSantis really is, in this particular sense, following the Trump playbook, in that, you ready? Here we go. Everything that he's doing, every lie, every distortion, every deception is all about getting not reelected as governor, because he assumes that's in the bag, but getting elected to be the Republican nominee for president in 2024. And if that means sacrificing the lives of children, sacrificing the lives of teachers and people who work in schools and other folks all across Florida under the guise of there are just enough knuckle-dragging moron redneck pieces of shit in that state who believe that there is some kind of inherent freedom in going to school maskless with other maskless children who may or may not be passing around the Delta version of the coronavirus, that they believe that that is an expression of freedom that the founding fathers wrote about. If you dig into the Federalist Papers, I've got the Federalist Paper number 46 that says, if there's ever a virus, God damn it, don't make the kids wear the mask. I think that was written by John Adams. John Adams wrote that.
John Q. Adams or John Adams, his dad? Which one was it? I'm not sure.
John C. Adams, an unknown cousin.
John Calhoun Adams. Okay, all right. Fair enough.
Right. So again, everything he's doing is part of that bet that he is making. And if he would, again, he does win. He's out in front now, and this is a big contest. This is a really exciting contest. The dumbest asshole graduate of Harvard ever. And there have been some dumbass graduates of Harvard, but
Ted Cruz.
he is at the top of that class, right?
Ted Cruz.
You okay?
Sorry, I got a little something in my throat there. I'm just seeing that Governor DeSantis has arrived at Pembroke Pines for a press conference touting those monoclonal antibody treatments that you were talking about. And there is some speculation, I don't know if it's been verified, that perhaps he might be benefiting financially from an investment in the folks that are responsible for the monoclonal antibody treatments.
Well, yeah, but again, that's the thing that's not widely available.
Of course it is. That's correct.
That's part of that was in the kitchen sink that was thrown at Trump, and that's what Greg Abbott is giving. So I just want you to think about this. Let's go back to the seatbelt auto accident analogy. All right. So let's first of all, let's stop allowing the government to force people to wear seatbelts. Okay. Because This is about freedom, right? And what the government should be doing is spending more money on emergency treatment of people who get into car accidents and get much more profoundly injured because they were not wearing the seatbelt so that they could express their freedom. That's what this is. We're not going to tell everyone to get vaccinated. We're not going to make rules saying you got to be vaccinated to be able to walk into a school, and we're certainly not going to allow superintendents to mandate masks in counties in Florida. We're not going to do that. We're going to emphasize what happens after you get coronavirus and you end up in the fucking hospital 1 inch away from going on a ventilator and dying, like Phil Valentine, the talk show. That's the most important thing. It's not, remember, so not only is prevention, an ounce of prevention, not worth a pound of cure, okay? And in this case, that is the best cliche ever. The cost of vaccinating everybody is nothing compared to what it costs to treat people in the hospital. Just think about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what does the vaccine really cost? Is it like $100 a dose? Whatever it is, and tax money's paying for it. Okay, so it's $100 a dose versus if you go into the hospital, it costs thousands, tens of thousands,
pennies on the dollar. It really is pennies on the dollar. Yeah, it's nothing.
Right. So again, hey, Republicans, you're the ones who hate money being wasted on things. That's a waste. It's a waste to emphasize at the expense of mass vaccinations, mandated vaccinations, which is what we should have in this country. We know it. You know it. The American people know it. Bob Dole. Instead of that, right, Ron DeSantis will probably push for the Florida legislature to spend $100 million on treatment in the hospital. Okay, make the treatment. No, I don't want the treatment in the hospital because I don't want to be in the hospital.
So take the fucking shot.
The way I prevent myself from being in the hospital is to get the goddamn vaccine.
Get the shot.
To have my kids, wear a mask. See, if Ron DeSantis, and again, I know he watches the Brad and Britt cast, or he listens to it.
You should.
If he really wanted to wail on the government as it relates to kids being safe in school, what he would say is, I am so mad, I am so angry that they've slow walked approving the vaccine for under 12s. And I understand that they have a process. I get it. But this is truly an emergency. And I'm not talking about sacrificing kids who might be allergic to it, but I'm talking about in large numbers. And you know what? I think people would get behind that in a second. I think most of us with kids, you had an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they're not vaccinated. And if your choice was to send them to school right now with a mask, doing everything you could, versus having gotten them vaccinated, a month ago before school started, so they'd be fully immune right now, and then having the localities decide still maybe kids should be wearing masks. People would vote. I think most people would vote to get their kid vaccinated. Don't you?
Mm-hmm. I think that's
Don't
true.
you?
I think I'd like to think most people would.
Right, and I understand children are not exactly the same. They don't respond identically to things that adults do, and which is why they separately are testing. I get that. But if you're going by the famous line that you heard a billion times last year when schools were largely closed and kids were at home sitting in front of their computers, that we have to get these kids back in school no matter what. The damage that's being done to them by not being in school,
God, yeah.
academically,
again,
so much worse
these government schools that were teaching them Common Core and brainwashing them on socialism and activism.
We got to get them back in school, right?
We got to get so they can learn all of this thing. They can learn all of this activism, and they can learn about all of those things. We've got to get them in there immediately.
Hang on, that's a separate category of bullshit. Okay, that's its own category.
But these people who railed against them being taught all sorts of multiculturalism and core and decor and all this other horseshit, we got to get them back in there. I want my kid to learn multiculturalism. We haven't talked about Afghanistan at all. Just a few closing remarks. The Taliban, you can easily see them in a lot of footage now, beating on protesters in the street in Kabul and other cities in and around Afghanistan. So far, the Taliban fighters have not cleared a path for Mullah Baradar to go hold a Quran in front of a mosque, but that might be coming soon, Brett. We're not sure.
I don't know. This is a terrible scene, and we're watching it in real time. And the Taliban is attempting to do PR, and it's bullshit. New Taliban, same as the old Taliban. What do you think? That while they were gone or underground or fighting out in the hills instead of owning the cities for all these years, that they were taking master classes from Emily Post and Nelson Mandela on peaceful resolution of no, they weren't. They've been biding their time, and so they are back, and I think the interesting part of this, as pathetic human beings as these people are, and they are, they are as close to what we have in the modern world to a Nazi death cult as
very
there
much
is.
So. Very much so.
Is it just that's basically what they are? It's this is not just my way or the highway. It's my way or we cut off your head. It's my way, and if you don't wear a burqa, bitch, you're dead. But other than that, I'm tired already of the. We have to see whether they're really going to liberalize and give women the rights that they have been able to get in the last 20 years. Say what you want about the United States being in Afghanistan. The one thing that did come out of that was that millions, maybe more than 10 million women got educated and they've moved. And it's the old, once they taste the sweet smell of freedom, it's hard to put it back into the bottle. And the Taliban, they're all about putting it back into the bottle. You want to make Afghanistan great again? Well, the Taliban version of making Afghanistan great again is back to the late 1990s and early 2000s, right before September 11th, when they would do those public executions. Remember those videos of inside a stadium? They'd put 40,000 people in there to watch people get executed and shit. I mean, that was them. And these are some of the same people. They are some of the same people, or they were teenagers then and they learned the trade, and now they're in power. And what interests me is the surrounding countries, okay? Because it's not as if these people take over Afghanistan and the rest of the neighborhood says, oh, well, now we have some nice neighbors, as opposed to what Afghanistan was when there were American military in there, keeping whatever they thought was, quote, the peace or the invasion of terrorists who were actually still in Afghanistan, and the Taliban was hanging out with them way out there. We didn't see them. But, look at who Afghanistan is surrounded. They're surrounded by Pakistan, I think, Iran, China, India, all these countries, Russia. There is not one of those countries, not a one of them, that digs terrorism. even if they allow it. But in terms of
and sponsor it,
threat and right. But if you think that the Chinese are into Islamic terrorism, you're wrong. The Chinese have their own issues with large Muslim minorities. Remember, a large Muslim minority in China could be 50 million people. Okay, it's China, right? And they do their own version of suppression and crackdowns, but they do not tolerate terrorism. They just don't. That's the Chinese. So the Taliban, what they are doing, their version of a charm offensive, oh God, look at this, is I think they're just trying to buy time while they figure out what the fuck have we done?
Exactly.
Where are we? What do we do? Because
I think you're right.
as always, the first rule in any city in the world, including your city, my city, wherever you are, is you got to get the garbage collected.
You do.
Damn it, you got to get the garbage collected.
Garbage collected. You got to get the sewer running. You got to get the water running. You got to get the power going. And I don't give a shit who you are. If people are going to rise up, they're going to get pissed off against you. Even if you're the Taliban, you rule with an iron fist and you shoot people.
Right.
If that stuff is not happening, people are going to rise up, and they're finding out, I think, that being in the ruling class ain't quite as easy as they thought.
I guess our hope here, again, this is just me talking. I haven't read this. Our hope is that the entrails of 20 years of influence that we've been able to have on that country, as unsuccessful as they were when it came to an invasion and a takeover once again militarily by the Taliban, but culturally, there is a Western stamp on Afghanistan. How quickly it will fade, we don't know. But that is something in Afghanistan that they did not have to cope with when they took over in the late 1990s. It wasn't as if Afghanistan was even close to a modern state, and it still isn't, but it's way more modern than it was.
Yeah, that's true.
And the Taliban is really going to, they really have their work cut out for them, Britt, because they're gonna have to tell everybody, and I would guess it could go so far as to instantly say, no more internet, no cell phones, no nothing, because as we have learned, the power of social media, for good and for bad, is ubiquitous around the world. It really is. Of course, the power of social media is nothing if it doesn't exist, but I think they're going to have a tough time stamping out social media and people's phones and that kind of communication. And as a result, every atrocity that they commit will be recorded. We're going to start seeing this stuff a lot more than we did even 20, 25 years ago. And we saw a lot of it then. And think of that. That was before an iPhone ever existed.
That's right.
There was no iPhone in 1999.
That's right.
Did not exist. You know why? Because Steve Jobs was lazy. He didn't put it out there until I think 2007. Damn him,
bastard.
Damn him. But I think, and this is our chance to actually do this, Britt. We have an opportunity to not react every day, every hour to every little event, and elevate it to, well, this is it. It's over. Biden's done. He did that. It doesn't work that way.
No,
it really doesn't work that way. And his judgment right now is open to question by a lot of people in a lot of places.
Sure.
But again, was he? I just don't know. I just don't know, because it takes courage. It takes courage to do what Joe Biden did, even if he did it without the evidence that he needed, that what subsequently happened wasn't going to happen. Because there's a video of him from just a month ago flat out saying that he certainly didn't anticipate anything even close to what we're talking about now, and that yes, the Afghan people can, maybe fend this off. I'm not sure, but it's hard to know. Mm-hmm. It's just very, very hard to know, and I'm just not that smart. I can't do it. I can't figure it out. And to all the Americans who stuck it out till the end, you don't want to say to them, they're like vaccine resistors. That hey, you knew it was coming. Why did you stay? Were you being paid that much? Was it worth it?
Well, that's
what
George is bringing up now.
It's not about saying.
That's what George is bringing up now. He's saying these Americans who are still in Afghanistan knew for months they were leaving. The vast majority of them work for private companies and contractors. The company should have gotten them out by now. Why do they wait and expect the U.S. government to get them out? And it's fair. Some of these people were told by their companies to stay put. There were a lot of contractors making a lot of money off of this war over the period of about 20 years. There's a lot of folks who were getting rich off of the idea that this war was going to go on endlessly. That is part of the story that needs to be explored a bit more too. And again, I don't know. You can blame Biden. You can blame Bush. You can blame a lot of people for this.
Right. Hey, pick your tranche of billions.
Yeah.
And ask, money. What was it good for? Absolutely nothing in this war. You see, there was once this song, Britt, called
Edwin Starr.
Apparently, the number that's been put on how much money we spent, quote unquote, training the Afghan army to, quote unquote, stand on its own 2 feet over these 20 years is about $80 billion. From what I can tell, about 79.4 billion of it was spent on tanks and equipment, and a couple million was spent on human training. And of course, that's not really true.
Yeah.
But as we see, we left a lot of shit behind, and now it's going to be used
against us
by the Taliban.
Right.
I never can figure that out. If I was running from my house, I was running from my house because it was on fire, and I didn't want anybody to ever drive my car again because I got to just run. I don't, but nobody can have my car. I'd fucking slash the tires and pour sugar in the gas tank and fuck up the engine. I wouldn't allow. So how did we not disable every bit of American equipment that we couldn't take with us? How hard is that to do?
The old sugar in the tank. We should have used that. Holy shit. They never go back to the classics.
Yeah. But I just I don't get that. So you just got to let this thing air out and develop over the next few days, and the pressure is on this administration now to get as many people out as we can, and we can do the recriminations later. Thank God you're here to do it now about the contractors who were stupid enough to order their people to stay. Boy, if there's any written evidence in the last few weeks of some company, some contractor like Betsy DeVos's brother, that piece of shit, that guy, he probably was running some companies over. He's the kind of guy who would tell all those people to stay there, come hell or high water. If there's evidence of that, that's trouble. That's going to be problems for those people because then you're going to have them saying, well, we didn't foresee it was going to happen this quickly. We thought we had time. So we're going to now sue the government for negligence for allowing this to. So again,
good luck.
So we're not even in the top of the first inning. We're still doing warm-up pitches here on what the residual effects of what we're seeing right now, what those effects are going to be. It's terrible, but if you want to subscribe to it was going to happen sometime, better to rip the Band-Aid off now than to just keep it going. But because of what you're seeing right now, no matter how clumsy it is, even if it would have been handled, quote, better, the Taliban taken over, gradually, they would have walked in instead of running to Kabul. You can see why, from a purely crass political standpoint, every other president going back 20 years until this one, said, let's kick the can down the road. Let's keep the balls in the air. Obama said, let's do a surge. Here's another 50,000. We can finish this off. That didn't work. And Trump, who, of course, pledged to end this war, because remember, everything he ever says is about thinking it could get him reelected, right? So he's supposedly being given credit for that. But of course, that should be completely wiped away by the fact that Donald Trump has lied about everything, and that he was so desperate to get what looked like apparently was going to be some level of a political win by sitting down and negotiating with the Taliban and having Hungry Howie's Pizza cater a meeting at Camp David. All right, that's stupid. Hungry Howie's is not in Maryland. Okay,
I don't think they were there.
That was wrong. Yeah, they're not franchised there. So, he's got nothing to say, which means he'll just say it, right?
Right.
He's just yapping.
Oh, this is also my favorite one from a lot of conservatives. The leader of the Taliban has a Twitter account, but Donald Trump does not. That's one that they're throwing out there. That's a good one.
Well, good. Maybe that tells you just what a piece of shit Donald Trump is.
It does.
That might confirm that. All right.
That's
All
our
right,
show
done.
for today.
We've had it. And,
We'll be back to finish up the week mañana.
If the week doesn't come back to finish up.
Exactly.